How does that
No,
look?
I'm not saying that. You get some sense that there's a handful of stocks.
Look at that. I mean, you could tie that to the market. Bang.
All right, so you got your Croton-Harmon alumni shirt on. The Bearcats. Were you guys with the Wildcats, the Kittens? What were you guys?
Croton Tigers. Croton Tigers, northern Westchester, between Ossining and Peekskill. Great town. Tough
yeah,
town.
great town. So what years were you in high school?
Graduated in 1982.
So when you got into high school, it was the 70s. What was going on with Guy Adami's hair in kind of a freshman Guy Adami? What were you doing?
You would think, see, it's interesting you say that. You would think I would have this, flow going, but I was always kept it sort of high and tight. I was more
Really? Huh.
Every once in a while we get a little longer, and my hair, as it gets longer, gets curly and wavy. I wasn't into that, so I would try to keep it, to this day. If you look, I mean, I'm still trying to keep things sort of tamped down.
Well, tell you what, so hold one arm up in the air. Just like take one arm and just go up in the air. Wow. No, don't touch your hair. Just go straight up with it like you were. Yeah, like fist in the air. I tell you what, it's uncanny.
Oh, look at
the
that.
Guy over my shoulder and a young Guy Adami, maybe akin to a young Tony Manero. So yeah, look, 1977, Saturday Night Fever is released and the world is never the same. Again, I mean, seriously, a soundtrack that even as a guy that probably had a Disco Sucks bumper sticker, the soundtrack's ridiculous, and it lives on today.
Well, the music is fantastic, and you have Yvonne Elliman. If I can't have you, you obviously have Tavares, who, by the way, played for the New York Mets.
I know he played. Actually, did more work with the Pirates, but Frank Tavares, more than a woman. By the way, I think the version by the Bee Gees was not as good as Tavares's version. This would be for another commercial break where we talk about bands that made the song better than the band that actually wrote the song. But anyway.
And then, of course, you have Casey and the Sunshine Band doing Boogie Shoes. But the soundtrack, the thread, the common theme, what put them on the map, obviously, was the Bee Gees. They were the driving force behind that movie.
But disco was the driving force. And if you think about it, again, while I was a little younger than you were probably sneaking into Studio 54. It was a wave that took over the country, and I kind of wish if we could redo this. I'd kind of like to be a part of it. I'm sure you had some moves, Guy. What was your signature move on the floor? Well, I mean, seriously.
No, see, it's interesting. No, you say that, and I know you're saying that to make fun of me. I didn't have it. I still don't have my signature move was to stand in a corner and stare. That's my signature move.
The star of Saturday Night Fever, at least in Tony Manero's eyes, was Stephanie. Back in the late 70s, folks, you danced your way into a girl's heart. I mean, it wasn't just enough to be funny and maybe have good taste in music and maybe driving a sweet, like souped up Chevy Malibu like you were, Guy, but you actually had to know how to dance. Call me out on that one too. I had no game, but I respect.
No, and listen, dancing will always be timeless, but disco, as I think we all come to realize, was, fortunately, at least for me, was a passing fad. So you have to ask yourself, what are we in the midst of now in terms of, in our world, passing fads? And I don't know if crypto is going to be that. Maybe crypto is here to stay, but given what's happened with the price action recently, one has to wonder if disco is going to be the way of disco night at Comiskey Park, if you recall.
Well, look, much in the way that I think some of the biggest financial institutions are embracing fintech, but more importantly, we'll have a backbone in operations and settlements and client accounts that's built on the blockchain. You can almost make an argument. It's kind of like the Stones recognizing that they had to be a part of the disco thing. You can't tell me that "Miss You" isn't a song. It's a disco song. It just is. And that album, which came out probably about the same time, was, again, you have to adapt, you have to adjust. So I think corporate America, it may not be Bitcoin. There's no question it's blockchain. And there's no question that I think, when you think about the world of security, you think about the world of essentially preset code. And in some sense, we may be trading stocks in a digital framework soon enough. I don't know if it's Bitcoin, but obviously coming out of COVID, there were so many trends that I think as we said so many times, they were trends that were already happening, and maybe COVID just accelerated them. I think the poster child for that is like a Peloton. You have a Peloton bike. You clearly, hopefully not wearing bike pants right now, but you're a guy that actually loves your Peloton. And my guess is, first of all, you had the Peloton before COVID, right?
Long before COVID. The Peloton we had early on when Peloton became a company, for sure. So my question back to you is, are we in the midst of something, or should companies just stay the course? Listen, my music, I tell people all the time, the last new band I liked was REM. And although that's somewhat tongue in cheek, there's a lot of truth to that. I am staying the course. I am true to form. Is it important to sort of adapt, or can companies survive just staying true to who they are?
Trends in markets and in terms of companies that are rewarded for valuations. I mean, if you look at Peloton, there's still a really strong argument that it's just a hardware company. It's a GoPro, it's a laser disc. I mean, whatever. Because and in fact, the stock's trading all the way back to late April 2020, which means it's done a pretty wicked round trip. It's still up over pre-COVID. But I mean, by the way, remember the GoPro? Like, did you ever have one of those? Like, you strapped it onto your skateboard and you kind of
my skateboard. I like what you did there. No,
Yeah,
I did not have a skateboard. For us, when we made skateboards,
you never skateboarded growing up.
We got a piece of wood. We got like a 2x4, and we found some wheels, and we screwed them on. That's how we made skateboards in Croton-on-Hudson. We needed them to get from point A to point B. So no, I didn't. In terms of GoPro, I don't know if we can do this, but I actually did a spot for CNBC where I wore a GoPro around. It was sort of a day in the life of Guy Adami.
I remember.
A great piece of video.
And didn't you get sick to your stomach or something like that? I mean, I feel like you were, or is that, no, that was when you were doing the Oculus, I think.
That was the virtual reality one, which literally I put those Oculus glasses on, and I was nauseous for a day, and I had to miss the show the next day. I was so sick.
Companies that at least, and trends that I think are things that are here to stay. First of all, look at the markets in the big picture. The fact that the semiconductor space has outperformed the rest of the market for a long time, and so almost anything requires a semiconductor these days. Some of these trends were alive and well, but if you think about the big picture of the markets, again, semiconductors I think caught flight during COVID, and I think they're here to stay. Some of the below that, and some of the big tech companies, Microsoft at the front of the line, also Google near the front of the line, and certainly Amazon near the front of the line. Maybe they're all interchangeable in terms of data center, and in terms of the cloud, and in terms of what's going on. I mean, these are not just fads. These are not trends. This is the way business is being built, but also where companies are essentially the infrastructure of those companies. So when I think about that, I think those are some of the big kind of trends that are not as fleeting as, dare I say, disco was. And I think that's probably a good thing that disco was fleeting.
It's fleeting, but just to put it in perspective, just to tie a bow on this, I know when my daughter and her roommates, when they go out, what do they call it? Like pre-gaming, they will put on the Bee Gees before they go out.
Really?
So think about that, 2021, and the Bee Gees are as relevant today as they were in 1977.
It's amazing because right now, Guy, you know what you and I are doing? We're just barely staying alive. But you know what? We're doing it. We're doing it every night at 6 p.m. or somewhere during the day. You're going to find us on Reach TV. Be safe out there, Guy. Good luck to the kitty cats.
Croton Tigers. That's Tim Seymour. I'm Guy Adami. As always, we are
Commercial break.